some specific items with Attorney General Bondi here, beginning with the firing of Michelle Beckwith. Michelle Beckwith was a 15-year career prosecutor with the Department of Justice. She prosecuted in her career some of the worst in my home state of California: sex traffickers, transnational terrorists, those who this administration claims to care about and be targeting, prioritizing in taking them off the streets. And it may surprise some to learn that Ms. Beckwith was unceremoniously marched out of her office and fired from her job in July of this year. Why? Not because she failed to do her job, quite the opposite. It was because she had the audacity to remind Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino that he was obligated to follow a court order and the Constitution in California. According to reports, she was fired less than 6 hours after she told Bovino he couldn't arrest people without probable cause. 6 hours.
Padilla.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to participate in this hearing today, which is our, at minimum, annual opportunity to ask questions as we fulfill our obligation to provide accountability over the Department of Justice. So just sort of to level set a little bit for folks in the audience and for folks watching at home, the Department of Justice is supposed to be the nation's guardian of fairness and the rule of law. The power of the Department of Justice is built on public trust and a belief that prosecutions are based on facts and law, not on politics or personal loyalty. And I call that out, Mr. Chairman, because when that breaks down, when the public trust breaks down, then justice itself is at risk. But under this Trump administration and the leadership of Attorney General Bondi, I believe the independence of the Department of Justice has come under attack. The department has been reorganized, it's been realigned, and repurposed in ways that we've never seen before. Important offices have been closed, key programs dismantled, and agents diverted, all without congressional authorization or transparent justification. Now, these are not minor bureaucratic changes. They represent a fundamental shift in the Department of Justice's missions and priorities, its policies, and its practices. Now, for example, career prosecutors have been pressured to change decisions in politically sensitive cases. Ethics oversight has been taken away from independent career professionals and handed to political appointees with little experience in these matters. Internal working groups have been created to revisit investigations involving President Trump and his allies. And together, these steps send a dangerous message that prosecutorial decisions can be driven by political loyalty instead of the law. Now, even more troubling is that the Department of Justice has pulled resources away from organized crime, away from counterterrorism, away from the protection of civil rights, to focus on immigration enforcement. The American people expect a Department of Justice to pursue violent crime, as do I, to pursue corruption and threats to national security, not to serve as an arm of immigration policy, and in so doing, under-resource other critical missions. Now, the Justice Department's credibility depends on the public's faith in justice, and that the justice will be applied equally to every person and not reserved for the powerful or the connected. And that faith must be protected. And so it's in that spirit that this committee has a duty to ensure the department's work remains lawful, remains transparent, and remains true to its highest duty, the fair and impartial administration of justice. Now, that being said, I do want to get into some specific items with Attorney General Bondi here, beginning with the firing of Michelle Beckwith. Michelle Beckwith was a 15-year career prosecutor with the Department of Justice. She prosecuted in her career some of the worst in my home state of California: sex traffickers, transnational terrorists, those who this administration claims to care about and be targeting, prioritizing in taking them off the streets. And it may surprise some to learn that Ms. Beckwith was unceremoniously marched out of her office and fired from her job in July of this year. Why? Not because she failed to do her job, quite the opposite. It was because she had the audacity to remind Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino that he was obligated to follow a court order and the Constitution in California. According to reports, she was fired less than 6 hours after she told Bovino he couldn't arrest people without probable cause. 6 hours. So my first question, Attorney General Bondi, is a simple yes/no question. Do you believe that government officials like Gregory Bovino are obligated to follow applicable court orders, whether they agree with them or not, yes or no?
First, Senator Padilla, you have gone on for over 5 minutes, and I wish that you loved your state of California as much as you hate President Trump. We'd be in really good shape then, because violent crime in California is currently 35% higher than the national average. Property crime in California is 18% higher than the national average. That should be something that we should be talking about and working together on, yet we're not. And no, this is important. You're talking about all of my agencies, and I want to let you know what DEA has been doing, and they are working hand in hand with
I
Homeland
appreciate
Security.
that, and I'm going
No,
to
you can't go on for 5 minutes and criticize my agents who are out working without pay right now because you voted to shut down the government. They're out there working without pay.
Mr. Chairman, I asked a simple yes or no question. Attorney General Bondi is
DEA,
refusing
4,500
to respond.
kilos
So let
of
me move on to
fentanyl
the
and
next
50 million
topic,
fentanyl pills
because
off the streets.
while under your watch,
FBI,
prosecutors
23,000
Mr. Chairman,
violent criminals. U.S. Marshals,
Mr. Chairman, order, please.
51,000 fugitives.
I'm not getting an answer to my question. I'm trying to move on to the next question or the next topic. Mr. Chairman, order, please. Thank you. Because under Attorney General Bondi's watch, career prosecutors are being fired for telling agencies to follow the law and uphold the Constitution. Meanwhile, there are instances of allies of the president who seem to be getting let off the hook. I won't reiterate what some of my colleagues have already brought up in terms of the dismissal of the investigation into Tom Homan and his alleged acceptance of $50,000 as payment by undercover FBI agents posing as business executives looking to secure contracts with a future Trump administration. Because if the reports are true, it's not just the underlying conduct of Mr. Homan, which would be absolutely unacceptable, but the dismissal of the investigation charges raises concerns about the influence of the White House on the Department of Justice. Again, a simple question, and I'd appreciate a simple and brief answer. Whose decision was it to end this investigation?
I have answered that question multiple times, yet you didn't have the courtesy to be sitting in here for the hearing. I'm not going to answer it again. And I find it interesting that you want order in this proceeding now. Excuse me, Senator.
Then
you want order in this proceeding now.
Chairman, order,
you sure
please.
didn't have order when you stormed Secretary Noem at a press conference in California, did you?
I will ask a follow-up question. Would you commit to either releasing the tape or at least making it available for members of this committee to review, yes or no?
Senator, you have not been sitting in here this entire hearing. I've answered the question, and I also want to tell you that our ATF agents have seized 25,000 illegal firearms.
So we will try again and move on to different
in your
topic.
home state, we are prosecuting
Chairman,
illegal
order,
aliens
please.
who have raped
Mr.
and
Chairman,
murdered young
order,
girls.
Please. Thank you. So when I haven't been in this hearing, I've been watching from my office, monitoring the entire hearing, just so everybody is aware. But since I'm not getting answers to my questions, I'll try to ask one last subject area. Now, again, there's been increasing concerns about the politicized decision-making and the erosion of internal safeguards to protect prosecutorial independence. Before we even get into the integrity and independence of prosecutions, you have to ask a question about the independence and integrity of investigations themselves. The director of the FBI, Director Patel, was here before us just a few weeks ago. Attorney General Bondi, you are the Attorney General of the United States. Director Patel reports to you. Do you believe he's doing a good job, yes or no?
I believe Director Patel is doing a great job. You know where he is right now, Senator Padilla? Right now, you asked me a question.
Yes,
Director
I know
Patel
where he
right
is,
now,
I know
he's
where
in
he's headed
Chicago,
because you said it
Senator
earlier
Durbin,
in the hearing.
fighting to keep
You said
Chicago
it earlier in the hearing, and yes, I have been paying attention.
You know, you want order in here now, yet you stormed the Director of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem. You sure didn't have order that day, did you, Senator?
Attorney General, you are under oath. I did not storm the secretary, the video.
Oh, that was
makes
on
that very
video. That
clear.
video has been released, I believe, very publicly.
Mr. Chairman, recent actions raise serious concerns about Director Patel's judgment and politicization, including lawsuits from former FBI officials alleging retaliatory firings, and his decision to cut off longstanding partnerships with civil rights organizations, and his decision to fire an FBI agent for refusing to engage in a, quote, perp walk of James Comey. And on top of all that, his prematurely claiming that subjects were in custody after the shooting of Charlie Kirk. I take Attorney General Bondi's endorsement today of his work as her support for those actions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
May I respond, Senator Chairman?
Yes.
Under Director Patel, 23,000 violent criminals have been arrested, a 91% increase over last year. More than 1,500 child predators have been arrested. We are making cases in your jurisdiction constantly in California, and I wish you would care about those cases. We have disrupted 1,600 gangs and criminal enterprises, 1,600 gangs within this country, thanks to Director Patel and the great men and women of the FBI.
Senator Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How are you today, Attorney General? It's good to see you.
I have a rough voice.
I have to say, I am struck by.
The moment that still hangs in the air comes near the end of the exchange, when Attorney General Pam Bondi looks directly at Senator Padilla and delivers a pointed accusation. That was on video. In that instant, the hearing stops being just another round of procedural oversight and becomes something sharper, more revealing. A senator demands yes or no answers about the rule of law. An attorney general responds not with clarity, but with counterattacks, personal reproach, and a charge tied to a past public incident. The gavel may not have fallen, but the line was crossed, and everyone watching could feel it. This moment tells us far more than the words themselves. It exposes how accountability hearings, designed to test power and reinforce public trust, can instead become battlegrounds where truth competes with narrative, and authority resists scrutiny by shifting the frame. Senator Padilla's questions were narrow and deliberate. Are officials obligated to follow court orders, and who decided to end specific investigations? These are not abstract questions. They go to the heart of whether the justice system answers to law or to politics. Yet those questions never received a clean answer. Instead, the response redirected attention, questioned motives, and reframed oversight as hostility. In a functioning system, oversight is not an act of aggression. It is a constitutional responsibility. When a senator presses for a yes or no, it is not theater. It is an attempt to draw a bright line between lawful authority and discretionary power. What unfolded instead was a demonstration of how easily that line can blur. By invoking crime statistics, agency actions, and past confrontations, the Attorney General shifted the discussion away from the specific allegations at hand. The result was not resolution, but noise, a reminder that power, when challenged, often seeks refuge in deflection. The exchange also reveals a deeper tension within American governance, the struggle between institutional independence and political alignment. The Department of Justice is meant to stand apart, its legitimacy grounded in impartial application of the law. Senator Padilla framed his argument around that principle, warning that when public trust erodes, justice itself is weakened. His references to reorganizations, dismissals, and internal pressure were meant to establish a pattern, not score a point. Whether one agrees with his conclusions or not, the concern he raised is fundamental. A justice system perceived as selective cannot long command confidence. Attorney General Bondi's responses, by contrast, emphasized outcomes and loyalty. She highlighted enforcement numbers, praised agency leadership, and questioned the senator's commitment to his home state. These statements were not without context, but they sidestepped the central issue. Who decides by what authority and under what constraints? When oversight questions are answered with accusations rather than explanations, it signals a shift in how accountability is understood. The message becomes clear. Scrutiny itself is treated as suspect. That is why the on-video accusation matters. It was not merely a rebuttal, it was an assertion of moral leverage. By invoking a recorded incident, Bondi attempted to place the senator on the defensive, reframing him not as an overseer, but as someone whose own conduct could be judged. In doing so, the balance of the hearing changed. The focus moved from institutional decisions to personal credibility. And once that happens, the public is left to sort through competing narratives rather than clear answers. This is the broader consequence of moments like this. Congressional hearings are one of the few spaces where executive power must answer directly in public under oath. When those moments dissolve into accusation and interruption, the audience learns something unsettling. They learn that clarity is hard-won, that authority resists simple questions, and that the search for truth can be drowned out by spectacle. It is not just about one senator or one attorney general. It is about whether the mechanisms of democracy still function as intended. Yet there is another layer to this scene. The insistence on numbers, arrests, and operational successes reflects a governing philosophy that prioritizes results over process. Results matter, undeniably. But process is what separates lawful power from arbitrary power. The Constitution does not ask whether an outcome feels justified. It asks whether authority was exercised within defined limits. Senator Padilla's repeated demand for yes or no answers was an attempt to return the conversation to those limits. The refusal to provide them speaks volumes. As the hearing moved on, the moment lingered. Viewers were left with unresolved questions and a clear illustration of how polarized governance has become. Oversight is cast as obstruction. Questions are met with counterclaims. And the public, watching from home, is asked to decide whom to believe without being given the full facts. That is not how trust is built. Trust is built through transparency, restraint, and a willingness to answer even uncomfortable questions plainly. In the end, this exchange is a snapshot of the current American political landscape. Power is contested openly. Institutions strain under partisan pressure, and accountability depends not only on the courage of those who ask questions, but on the integrity of those who answer them. The rule of law is not maintained by rhetoric or statistics alone. It is maintained when officials, regardless of rank, accept scrutiny as part of their duty. That is the lesson this moment leaves behind. Democracy does not erode all at once. It frays in exchanges like this, where answers are avoided and responsibility is deflected. The public deserves better than that. It deserves clarity, honesty, and leaders who understand that accountability is not an attack, but a safeguard. If you believe these moments matter, if you believe the truth deserves to be examined rather than evaded, support our work to expose the truth. Subscribe to Liberty Report USA.